Hey, it's Dr. Brenda, founder of the Gutsy Women Club, where women dare to dream and take bold actions to follow their heart's journey. Also, a full-time RVer traveling the country with my three cats. Now, I am a planning nerd. I am a planning geek. I love planning, and I have my whole itinerary set up for a year in advance, and most of my reservations are already made. That's how much of a nerd I am. But these days, you got to really plan ahead. And a lot of people have looked at my itinerary and they're like, wow, you are going to some fabulous, fabulous places. So I want to share with you today how I plan amazing RV trips. And I'm going to focus on my trips for 2021, focus on the Western states. So let's go ahead and launch right into this. First of all, everybody's got a different travel preference. Some people are great at boondocking. They've got the rig, everything set up to do that. For me, my preference is I got to have power. I have to have power and cell service. I am working from my RV, so my preference is my Wi-Fi. My main Wi-Fi goes through AT&T, so that's my preference. And I also, because I'm traveling with my three cats, we all need to be comfortable. I do like my AC. I prefer to stay at places 1 to 2 weeks at a time. Most of the state national parks have a 2-week cap on how long you can stay, so that partly impacts that. I love the national and state parks. They are like the tops. That's my preference. I love Corps of Engineer campgrounds, but they're more common on the east than in the west. And here's an advantage of being a solo RVer. I can go a long time before I have to dump my gray and black tanks. So I can go up to 17 days before I need a dump station. So there's a big perk there. Also, I like to limit how much I'm driving in a day, so I may have stopovers from one campground to another. Sometimes it's at a private resort, so I can do my laundry and maybe do some shopping. But 350 miles a day works for me. Weather messes me up. Sometimes I've had, RV problems, so it gives me a little bit of leeway. If I can, I like to travel to the most popular places in the off season. And my most essential tool, everything that I do to plan my trips is RV Trip Wizard. I cannot work without it. Okay, so I'm going to share with you my incredible itinerary. I am currently in the northwest part of Texas, headed through Mexico, and going to hang out at the Grand Canyon for a while, and go through Arizona and Nevada and hang out on the Pacific coast here for a big chunk of the summer. So I'm going up the California coast, Oregon and Washington, and then headed to a lot of the fabulous national parks, Glacier and Yellowstone and Bryce and Zion, coming down through the western mountains and the canyons before headed back to the southern part of Texas for the winter. So that's 11 states I'm going to be traveling through. 4 in the Southwest, the whole Pacific Coast, those states, 4 in Western mountains and canyons. So it's required a bit of juggling to do the reservations because of this, okay? There's not a lot of consistency. You have to do your research in advance, and luckily I've just done some of the research for you to know when the reservation releases. What's the reservation release schedule? Now, these are the number of months in advance of the start date that the reservations can be made. I'm putting this together in April 2021, so just you might want to double check in case any of these states have changed their reservation systems. Now, one state does not have a reservation system. Everything there is on a first-come, first-served basis. That state, Nevada. But everybody else has different window release times. So in Arizona, you can reserve a campsite up to a year in advance. So that's pretty wild. Washington State and Idaho reserve 9 months in advance. Now, the national parks, most of your federal lands, Corps of Engineer campgrounds, That's a 6-month window. Other states that follow that 6-month reservation release schedule are New Mexico, California, Oregon, and Montana. Texas has a 5-month release schedule, and then 4 months, that's Wyoming and Utah. Now, you're going to find like other parks, like maybe there's some county parks or regional parks that are on a totally different schedule. So I'm just talking about the state parks here and the national federal parks. And by the way, Washington State, it is very expensive and very difficult to get into. I have several campsites. My preferences were already taken. I was online 9 months before my scheduled arrival. Still couldn't get in. So, word of warning, it's pretty competitive, even for some of the state campgrounds. Okay, now that's a lot of things to juggle, right? You have got to prioritize. You're probably not going to get everything you want when you want. So you've got to prioritize. Is there a campground on your bucket list? Can you have flexibility to build that in and then work around it? So if you've got a couple of campgrounds, those are your centerpieces. Work around those. Look at the reservation dates. When that window opens up, you got to be logged in. You have to have your sites selected, ready, so that the millisecond that clock turns over to the on top of the hour, whenever it's released, boom, you add it to your cart, and you still might not get in, but you gotta get yourself ready. This is like, it's kind of like winning tickets to the Super Bowl in some of these cases. That's what it feels like. I mean, my anxiety level always goes up in the excitement of capturing a campground site, one of the national parks especially. That's just like, that's a thrill. All right, couple of tools. You want to have date reminders on your cell phone. So have an alert. Say, okay, it is April 1st and October 1st is when I want to get into my reservation at one of the national parks. Boom, I'm going to set an alert for April 1st. That's the time when I can make my reservation. So you want to do that on your cell phone. Also, a lot of the state parks are on Reserve America, and I'm going to show you a little bit about how you can set up availability notifications. I am not sure if you can set up 5 or 6. I know that at one point I had to delete one to make room for another one. So just be a little bit cautious that you can set 5, maybe 6 notifications. Okay, I'm going to show you a little bit about Reserve America. The example I'm using is Cape Blanco State Park, Oregon, and like most of the state parks in Oregon, it's very popular. So as an example here, what I did is I selected a date here that is beyond the window when it's open. So I selected the date, and you can see that there's no availability, and that's because the date is beyond the window, but I did get this notice. So pay attention to this. It says we were unable to find any available sites matching the entered dates and criteria. Create availability notification. Get an email alert when there is availability. That's what you want to click on. It'll take you to another screen. You add it to your profile. You have to be logged in clearly to do this. And then where it goes to is when you're clicking on your account, under the reservations, under My Reservations, you're going to see availability notifications. Now, I have several active ones that I'm not sharing with you, but you can see this is the one that I just put in, Cape Blanco State Park. There it is, and you can view the details, but you're going to now get an alert for when that reservation system opens up for your particular dates. If you're not using it, if you've already, if there's some you don't want to use, just delete, because again, you only get so many notifications, and not all of the state parks are on Reserve America, so some of the state parks you might not have this option. Okay, I want to talk about national parks because they are very difficult to get into. First of all, because I want power and water, preferably water, and my RV is 32 feet long. There are national parks where they don't have campgrounds available for me, or they're gone right away. So it's really, really competitive. I am right after this. I'm gonna give you some tips, show you how I got a site at Watchmen Campground in Zion National Park. So right now I'm gonna talk to you about some of the timing. Okay, well, some of the tips. First is the timing. Now the timing is going to depend a lot on which park you want to go to. I put in here, try to check midweek in the off season. In fact, people are booking for a whole week at a time, so sometimes the midweek strategy doesn't work. I'm gonna, in my video, I'll show you to check the park individually to see when people are most likely to check out. But anyway, hopefully you've got some flexibility there in terms of timing. Availability. You're going to go to that website 2 days before, absolutely a day before, and you're going to see which sites are available. So that way you've already got things selected. You know what's out there. You know whether that's a good day for you to try to get a reservation. And again, I'll walk you through that process in that next section after this. If you are traveling with a group, so I've got a friend who is traveling with me for part of my trip, and what happens if one of us gets a reservation and the other one doesn't? Well, you can add 2 sites. I don't know if you can do 3. I just tried 2. I can add both sites into my cart. That way either we're both in or we're not. Once I add it in, I can provide her email information and contact information, and it'll book both of those reservations, and then she just pays me back. But that's a little tip too, if you're traveling with a group, to solve that problem. Well, you got in, I didn't get in, now what am I going to do? Click the minute, the second, the millisecond that reservation window opens. Now, I think most of us have laptops where the computer clock is synced. I've not had any issues with this, but if you're questioning, if your system is just a little slow, you can also check to make sure that your computer clock is synced. Okay. So what happens if, you've tried this a couple of days, you've tried this over and over, you can't get in? There are cancellations all the time, but how do you know when something's canceled? You can't spend every day, every minute on the website constantly checking for cancellations. So I have never used this app. It's called CampNab. I know some who have, and they've had success. There is a fee for it. So I think for one reservation for them to track it, it might have been $10, but they have different tiers. And the thing is, it will notify you when there's a cancellation, but then you have got to get on that website right away and grab that open reservation up. The challenge that I would have is that a campsite might be open that particular day of when I want to enter, but when do I have to leave? Is it open for 1 night, 3 nights, 5 nights? When I want a 10 or 14 day stay, that's pretty difficult to come by. So anyway, you might want to give that a try. Again, I have not used it, so I can't give you my personal experience with it, but it is an option for you. All right, and the last of this, you got to have some luck, guys. You got to have some luck. So stay tuned, and I'll walk you through how I managed to get a reservation at Zion National Park. All right. All right, so I am at recreation.gov. This is Watchmen Campground in Zion National Park, and I'm going to show you what I do usually 2 days before I know my reservation window is open, and then definitely the day before. And that is, I've got to be ready to pounce on the sites that I want or any sites available. And so I'm at Watchmen Campground. Now, I've already put in some of the information, but what you want to do is add your vehicle length and the type of if it's a tent, trailer, RV, motorhome, whatever it is. So we're going to get that in there. What that's going to do is filter out the sites that don't work for me. And we're slow today, so thank goodness I am not trying to make a reservation on here today. So I have that set up, and the group size isn't so important to me, but yes, I want electric hookup. By the way, there is no water service in Zion National Park, so you gotta come in with pretty much a full tank. And I need 30 amps. So you can see there's only 9 sites that are fitted for 50 amps. So if that's, you're really gonna have to jump on those. So I'm going for 30 amps. And again, things are a little slow here setting up the filters. Okay, so now I've got it. Electricity hookup 30 amp. And so today is March 28th, and I can book up to September 28th. So let's say that I want to get my reservation in tomorrow starting September 29th. Okay, so that's the strategy I'm going to take. So I want to see what things look like today. It is past the reservation window, so I know that everything is going to be booked right now for September 28th. Instead of going down the campsite list, what I do is I do the view by availability grid. And again, we're having some slowness here. What this does, what kind of throws you off, is this always begins with today's date. So you can see everything is booked up, right? So what I'm going to do is, so the reservations are available through September 28th. So I'm going to put in, let's say I want reservations for the 29th. I'm just going to put in the 27th because the grid is going to show me what's going on. And I get a really good sense right here. The RV loop is the B loop, and that is where I want to be. So I am going to look to see what's available in the B loop. So starting right here with B1. Remember, I'm looking to see what's available for Wednesday the 29th. Okay, so I'm just going to go down here. B19 is available. Wow, that's it. That is it. B19. And that's it. Yeah, so I'm already thinking the odds are really stacked against me. Wednesday is not going to be a good time to check in. So I'm already beginning to think, all right, I've got to be a little bit flexible here. What if I check in on Thursday? Okay, well, then I know this is going to be, I'm looking for when they're checking out. So these folks are checking out. So I know this is going to be available. This is available. That's 2, 3, 4, 5 sites are available. So my odds are a little bit better. What about Friday? What if I want to check in on the 1st? And again, I'm looking to see who is checking out. And so these folks are checking out. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 sites, 7 folks will be checking out. And I can tell you right now, who's ever checking out here, this is all going to be booked by the time I'm looking on the 1st. So I'm already beginning to adjust, thinking, all right, it might not be until the 1st that my chances are better. The 29th doesn't look very good at all. But this also helps me select the site. So if I really want to try to go for the 29th, I am going to check the site. So this is B19. So I get a sense of, here's the length. And again, there are no water hookups. Looks like a gorgeous site. I'd love to have it. So what I do is I just write the availability down on a piece of paper. And so by the time that I am ready to try to get a site, I've already selected my preferred site. And I've the second, not the minute, the second that my clock ticks over to 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever the time is in my time zone that this availability comes in, I add it to my cart the second. And it's just a matter of luck. But that's how this helps me figure out, what is actually going to be available. That availability grid is really, really helpful. So I hope that you found this useful, and hey, good luck out there. Start well in advance, and fingers crossed for you. Okay? You take care.